Hello there again. Look, I have the old fire going, and look at my old mate Trampy's here with me tonight, and I was thinking of the crack, the way things are now today, and how much they've changed in a short space of time, because like 50 years, you may think it's a long time, and in some senses it is a long time, but it can go by very quickly. One day you just wake up and you realise it's gone. And I think back to I see some of the things going on today. You take things like that school teacher now in Westmeath. The carry on over that. You see it all over the Irish news, and even we see it here in England and all that, and you think the half of them is caught, the half of them saying he's a hero, and the other half saying he deserves to be locked up. And you know, and young people today, the way they seem to carry on is if you don't agree with their agenda, the verbal abuse, and they don't even listen. They're just so one-track minded on what they believe in, and it's like they've got blinkers on. And I don't bother with it all, you know. I think it's utter fucking nonsense, you know. And you're better off to get on with your own life. Now, I'm in a great position here because, like the storytellers of old, you know, I remember when I started out this storytelling, and the spirit of a lovely old neighbour of mine came to me, and she was with me for about 3 days, and she kept on at me. You must do this, you must do this. You bring a lot of people together. It was a lovely experience, and it was on her 10th anniversary. Poor old Molly Kelly, she was very good to me when I was growing up. And she was right. I didn't have the courage to start it. And it was like she gave me the courage to start it. And once I started it, I've never looked back. And everything she said in spirit, has come to light. The amount of people that I have come into contact with is astonishing. And I guess calls and even letters from all over the world. Mostly people looking up ancestors from different parts of Westmeath, and it's lovely when that happens, you know, when you're able to bring people together. And that's what the old storytellers done years ago. They were matchmakers. They knew what was going on in the parish, and because they were out rambling every night, and they were going from cottage to cottage telling stories, and they knew exactly what was going on. But going back to the growing up and the way I grew up, we grew up in a very innocent time, and what was lovely about it was you grew up in your own time. There was none of this pressure now, like the way I see my young lad as growing up. You know, he was a man at 15. He knew what everything was about. But when I was 15, I remember the old bogman, little Jack Kilmurray. He'd meet me coming along the road, wheeling his bicycle along the Torrent, and he'd stop and he'd dart me a stare, and Nicky Fury, he says, "You're crossing the bogs," he said, and he said, "It's not the magic you're after this time." And you know, it was amazing how them old people could read you. And I wasn't going to tell him what I was crossing the bog for. But I'd gone to this local GA crowd and I asked them for these. They used to sell these Gay Lynn ticket store. It was I think it was to do with the GA. Sure, I was no more interested in selling these tickets at all. I was crossing the bog because there was an old farmer on the far side, and he'd 5 daughters and ne'er a son. And I said to him one day, now his youngest daughter was 5 years older than me, so I didn't stand a chance, like, but when you're young, you don't think of them things. You think, sure, give me a couple of years and I'll catch up with them. But I loved the Irish women. There's nothing like them. The 5 of them, I was mad about the 5 of them. And I was madly in love for about 2 years. And every time I'd look at one, I'd be in love with her. I'd look at the second one, I'd be in love with her. And I couldn't make up my mind which of them I wanted. I wanted all of them. And I remember saying to the old farmer, I said, I'll be the son you never had. And sure, he was only laughing at me. He knew well what I was at. And I was going over, crossing the bog, selling these tickets, the far side of the bog. I won't say exactly where. Give away the story and make a show of myself. And some of them women, they're still about. They'll be coming looking for me. But I used to go, and I never once sold a ticket. I used to buy a rake of them myself. I get my mother to buy a few, and a couple of lads up the road to give me a few pounds for a few more, and throw them in. Sure, I was no more interested in. But I'd cross the 3 mile at the bog anyway, and land. And the old father used to be, he'd an old bit of a half loft in the cottage. And what wouldn't he be up there? He'd a bed up there and everything to get away from these women, the wife and the 5 daughters. And he'd be laughing at me coming in the door. She knew well. They all did, and they'd be making a fierce fuss of me. I'd be telling them ghost stories and everything. And they'd be making me corny bread and scones and apple crumble and custard, and they made a fierce fuss of me. But he'd be above in the loft, and he'd be looking down, and he'd be nodding at me, laughing like, as much as to say, I know what you're here for, but you haven't got a chance, mister. And sometimes I get there for 6 o'clock, and he'd start the Angelus, oh, Holy Mary, Mother. He'd lead the prayer from the loft above the bed, and we'd all have to stand up and follow him. And when I think of the things I'd done just to fit in and see them girls, it was the highlight of the week. And I remember telling them a story. I terrified them one night. I said, do you know, I said, you've no idea what I've to put up with to come over here just to see you girls, like, to pass Tor House, the old ruins of Tor House, and then have to come down into the bog, and 3 mile across the bog. And I said, the ghosts are on the land. I said, and I do see them regular, which I did. I said, and then the fairies. I says, but the fairies was always good to me, I was lucky. But the ghost, that was another story. There was, I reckon back in the 1740s in Tor House, one of the Pilkington's sons, one of the landlord's sons, was one of these portrait artists. And be Jesus, didn't he? He was engaged to this beautiful woman, and she was a very dainty woman. Because didn't he put her sitting in a chair in the living room at Tor House, and sat her in the chair, and he said to her, now be as still can be. He said, don't even breathe if you can, and if you do breathe very slowly. He said, I need you to be as still. And of course, to place him, she kept holding her breath for a long period. 11 hours it went on, and he doing this portrait of her. And just as he was touching it up and late into the night, he said, you done a great job now. And wasn't she dead in the chair? The poor devil passed away, trying to place him, holding her breath, and like I say, she was only there. I used to be passing by that. I seen a lad one night sitting down on a bale of straw, looking at the window, and I said to him, I was above in the tree. I was watching the badgers playing. Yes, I say what he had. I won't mention the man's name. Oh, he said, I see a woman in the house sitting in an armchair. I thought he was cutting me. I got down off the tree and there she was, sitting in the chair. And I went to Hawley, the diviner, and I told him, because I was terrified. He said, oh, Jesus, you see a ghost, I'll tell you, it's no joke. That was probably the first time I saw one. And Hawley told me the story. Oh, because she's there, says Hawley. I seen her myself. And Paddy Fon McCormick seen her as well. Just I told that story to the girls. Oh, Jesus, to be grabbing and holding me hand, and I was loving it, absolutely loving it. And you know something, it was the most harmless, innocent thing you could ever think of. But it was like, yes, at the time, it was such a big thing to you, these 5 beautiful girls, like, making a big fuss out of me. So I thought it was a lord going over there. I'd be coming home, I fell into bog holes and everything, thinking of these girls, and I couldn't make up my mind which of them I wanted, even though I hadn't a hope of getting one of them. Like I said, the youngest was 5 years younger than me. And that's how we grew up. And I came to England in first time when I was 18, and sure, I was as green as the grass. I didn't have a clue. And I wasn't a week in England. And my God, didn't I meet this American one. Ah, Jesus, I love your accent, she said. Oh, let me by the hand, you don't mind. Back to her hotel room and got into the hotel room. And as soon as she got in the door, I couldn't believe what was happening. She started flaking off the clothes. There was a trail of clothes all the way to the bedroom. By Jesus, I'll tell you, I learnt I had to grow up real fast that night. And the next morning we were lying in the bed, and she rang her boss in Chicago. Well, Marie, you'll never guess what. What, Julia? She said, what? I'm lying here with a naked Irishman beside me. Ah, go away. What? She said, a real live Irishman. Beside, naked in the bed beside me. And her boss was, oh, she said, I'm jealous. I wish I was there with you. I'll tell you, that was some eye-opener. But that's the way we were, you know, and it was no harm to be that way, mind you. Probably made up for it a few years later, but the crack then and the crack now, you couldn't compare the two of them.